Welcome to the Business Mechanics Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, co-founder of Results-Driven Leadership, where companies come to improve their team's performance. Today, we're going to be talking about becoming more assertive. However, it's on the special topic of those of you who are in management and leadership who are introverts and are high C's or high compliance on the DISC profile. I've come across lots of individuals, especially those identifying as introverts, those who are high C on the DISC profile, struggle with assertiveness. This can sometimes seem like a challenging trait to cultivate because it goes against a lot of your natural instincts. And as I often say, in order to grow, you must become uncomfortable. Growth comes through pain. And these topics I'm going to be talking to you about in the beginning, just in the beginning, be a little bit painful. You'll want to avoid them to avoid that pain. But the good news is, if you can adopt some of these best practices, these tips I share with you today, the good news is going to be that assertiveness, like any skill, which can be learned, it can be developed and honed over time. You'll become more confident, much more effective, and go be the leader you want to be. So if you're a little shy, conflict avoidant, this podcast will be very helpful because I'm going to give you some tips and best practices on how to leverage your keen mind, your intelligence, and your personality into a superpower. You don't have to be an extrovert to be a highly effective leader. That's a falsehood. But your shyness may be keeping you quiet. So let's delve into how individuals with these personality traits can become more assertive without compromising their true selves. You're wired the way you are. You can't change you. I'm going to keep you just the way you are. I'm just going to give you some ways, some ideas to become more assertive and more powerful as a leader. But first, let's start by talking about, hey, if you haven't taken a DISC profile, I don't want you going through this podcast trying to figure out what that is. The link's in the podcast notes, in the show notes, for you to go take a DISC profile. It's free. We'll send it over to you as soon as we get it back, and you'll understand what DISC profile you are: dominant, influencers, stability, compliant. Are you outgoing? Are you introverted? What are you? Conflict avoidant? Are you very risk tolerant? What are you? That's what DISC will tell you, and also help you identify those around you and some communication styles that you can identify and adapt to become a more effective leader. So all of that aside, take the DISC profile, let us send it back to you. It doesn't cost you a dime. So high C's typically, always, are introverts. They typically gain energy from spending time alone or are much more comfortable in small groups of people. They often are more comfortable with deeper, meaningful conversations. And in big social settings with a lot of people, they may find that very draining. Individuals with a high C profile are characterized by their conscientiousness, their precision, their accuracy, their structure, their ability to structure and organize things, and their analytical abilities. That is the big part of what a high C and many introverts have, is this ability to observe and see and analyze things, which is awesome. Now we just got to bring that out of you and help you in difficult situations to how to enforce yourself into the minds and thoughts and the opinions of others. Because you thrive on information, you thrive on accuracy, you thrive on being systematic. A lot of people need that. But if you stay quiet about it, you're keeping this very important approach that comes very naturally to you away from the 80% of people who don't have that approach. So let's distinguish real quick between being passive, assertive, and aggressive. Passive. There's a lot of passive people out there. A lot of the high S's are passive. Passive behavior involves avoiding conflict. And through that avoidance, you often do not express your feelings, your opinions, your questions, and you allow others to make decisions. We can do another whole show on that. I can help you high S's with that as well. Assertive behavior is characterized by confidently expressing one's opinion, your feelings, your needs in a way that respects the rights and feelings of others, being assertive. Aggressive behavior involves expressing oneself in a dominating and sometimes disrespectful manner. In fact, I just left a business where I saw a customer come in who was very assertive, but also very aggressive. And he came across as an a-hole in that disrespectful way he treated the staff in there. I became a little assertive with him. That's a whole nother story. So it's crucial. Assertiveness in leadership is essential, but we need to be able to balance your natural quietness and find you a middle ground. It's vital to effective leadership. Assertiveness, no matter what your personality type is, highly important. However, the assertiveness takes on a unique significance for you introverted leaders due to your innate tendencies and some of the stereotypes, the expectations of what leadership should, air quotes, look like. So here's why being assertive is particularly important for you introverted leaders. First of all, we need to break that stereotype. Let's start working on breaking that. The common stereotype of a leader often conjures up this image of this charismatic extrovert who's always in the limelight. Great public speaker, always with groups of people following them around. And yes, that is a way that some leaders are very effective. Their assertiveness allows them to naturally, people expect them to naturally be assertive. But you as an introvert, if you're holding back or not being assertive enough, if you can work on this, if you take some of the tips I'm going to share with you, this allows you to challenge the stereotype that goes with you. And when you're challenging that stereotype, that demonstrates that effective leadership, and I've seen many highly effective leaders who are introverts, high C's, it demonstrates that effective leadership is not about this charismatic extrovert. You don't have to be outspoken. You don't always have to be out front. It's about clear communication. Introverts tend to be very introspective. They like to process information before they share information. And you may be held back and not always willing or capable to verbalize your thoughts, unless sometimes you put on the spot or you're prompted to. If you become more naturally confident and assertive, this assertiveness will ensure that your vision, your thoughts, the keen intelligence that you have, this knowledge that you possess, maybe even be able to share some of your expectations, some of the feedback that you need to give. You get all that clearly communicated. You're going to be much more willing and able to bring that out of yourself. And it will reduce any misunderstandings or any misalignments within the team. It also empowers others. It's not about dominating others. It's about standing firm in your belief and values respectfully. For introverted leaders, being assertive can mean empowering team members by providing clear guidance, setting boundaries, and recognizing, most importantly, recognizing and addressing issues head on. You see it coming. Don't let them walk into that wall. You know it's coming because that's how you think things 4 or 5 steps ahead of most people. And you will help them avoid what you know is coming. It also is a great aid in helping others make good decisions. Now, leadership often requires making tough decisions. I don't think you have a tough time making tough decisions as long as you've got the data you need. We're going to talk a lot about that data today. And being assertive ensures once you have the data and you know how to capture that data, you can help others make decisions based on analysis and conviction rather than being unduly influenced by the louder voice or maybe some external pressures. This helps you build trust both ways. Because when leaders are consistently assertive, it fosters an environment of transparency and predictability. So don't be predictable about being shy and quiet. Be predictable about challenging ideas, gathering data, and being willing to ask questions. Team members, peers, your boss will respect you a lot for that. And they'll have a lot more trust in you, and you'll have a lot more trust in them as you see them share information to you. Self-advocacy. You must have, all effective leaders must have a wrath of conviction, or in other words, be able to stand by what they believe in. And again, often introverts keep that to themselves. And I want to help you bring that out, that wrath of conviction, that strong opinion, that knowledge, because often, if not always, you're right. So these strong opinions that are likely to be very accurate and right, you can help defend, protect, restructure, maybe even sometimes put people in their place when they're talking about things that they have no business talking about. They're sharing ideas or information that they're just flat out wrong about. Don't be quiet about it. If you're in a diverse, large organization, as an introverted leader, you must be assertive to advocate for your ideas, advocate for your team. That's a big part of leadership, and thus advocating for yourself. And this will make sure or ensure that you gain the resources, sometimes the recognition, although you're not a recognition hound, but your team will be. So you get the resources, your team or you get the recognition to support the success that you know you can gain. It balances the team dynamics. In teams with extroverted personalities who dominate, you as an introverted leader, and you're with the right amount of assertiveness, ensure that there's a balance. If you're in a room with this extrovert, this dominator, you can really rebalance the room with the proper approach that I'm going to share with you. And this ends up being very inclusive. It helps with a holistic decision-making by the entire group. And it also does not allow that dominator to make all the decisions to influence the entire room. With that balance, this holistic decision-making, all perspectives are considered. You're a master collaborator, creating that. Often I talk about the collective pool of knowledge. Your assertiveness and willingness to ask questions at the right time and not let the dominator take over. It's easy to just sit aside and just let things happen. Let's help you make some things happen. I'll get into this a little bit deeper, but extroverted leaders often derive your influence from the ability to engage and energize large groups. Introverted leaders frequently draw upon deep reflection and genuine one-on-one connections. You don't have a big group of friends, but the friends you have are very good friends. And the relationships you have at work can be very deep relationships. That's a strength of yours. Let's enhance that strength. You'll be very authentic and much more effective if I can bring out a little more assertiveness in you. And here are some tips for doing that. First of all, it's not going to happen overnight. You know that you're a patient person. Of course, you want to start small. This is, again, uncomfortable for you. So let's build it up. Let's get a little better practice, a little more until you gain more and more confidence with your ability to do this, especially when it comes to confrontation. You might want to only use this in the beginning in very small situations. You don't want to do it in the middle of a board of directors meeting or town hall. Do it in small groups. And practice by just stating your preference in a low stakes setting. Then also, as a tip, you want to have some self-awareness and understand that your feelings, your needs, your rights is going to be achieved through self-reflection. A lot of introverts or high Cs or big journalists, but being mindful about all this, knowing that I'm going to go in, I need to learn this, I need to think about it, I need to process this, and do it over, practice it over and over, and build on it. Here's another little tip I want to share with you. Use I statements. Little different than saying, you always say. Instead, say, I feel or I think. This centers the conversation around your feelings, your opinions, without placing blame. So instead of, you always do this, you would never do it that way. You always do this. I feel or I think brings it down to your feelings or opinions. And it's hard for people to argue your feelings. And here's the superpower. It's called active listening. Active listening does a lot of things for you, but mostly ensures that you understand others before you form an opinion or a response. That gives you confidence. That gives you safety. And it also feeds your natural inclination to gather data. So ask clarifying questions. I'm going to talk about a bunch of open-ended questions, clarifying questions in just a little bit. But as you're learning, prepare ahead of time. If you know what the topic is, you know what the conversation you have is coming up, kind of script out your main points. Think about what you need to know and create some open-ended questions around the data you need, the information you need as part of that conversation. Now your plan, that is right down your alley. You're planned out. That's going to give you confidence. And it's also going to help ensure that you don't forget any crucial details. And here's the other thing. Seek feedback. You need to get a partner in this or partners in this. So as you're developing this confidence and skill set, a feedback loop is critical. So if you've got a trusted friend at work or peer that you appreciate and respect, ask them for feedback after some of your conversations. Tell them what you're doing, what you're working on. I want to be more assertive. Give me some feedback after the meeting. And it's even great to have your boss involved in this. I am a big proponent. If you have the right boss, hopefully you do, go to them and share with them what your journey of development is. Let them know what you're trying to do and ask them to provide you insights and feedback. Be a part of your growth. And if they're the right boss, they're going to respect you a lot for that and be more than willing to help you out with it. Now, fighting all of this is going to be your natural inclination, challenges, and let's talk about some of those and how to overcome them. So first, it may be fear of conflict. And remember, being assertive doesn't mean you're being aggressive. I'm not asking you to be aggressive. That's not in your nature. You're merely standing up for your rights and needs. That's that wrath of conviction. You need to be committed to your point, but also hold your opinions a little bit loosely in case there is other data that you're missing that can alter your course of your opinion. And also, you'll have a challenge of overthinking, high C's, sometimes overanalyze things, paralysis by analysis. And so it might be helpful to set a time limit for decision-making or to seek input from others to get a fresh perspective if you're stuck. And then don't worry about perception. It's important to understand that you can't control others' perceptions. They're going to think what they're going to think. You can put your best you out there, but you're going to be judged. Leaders are always judged. But if you're focusing on honest, clear communication, all the good things will follow. Their perception is going to become much more positive. And then always remember, this is a journey, and you need to continuously be working on your improvement. So developing assertiveness, it takes time. And you may never get there. It's not a distinct destination. Although you like to finish things and be able to check it off a list, it's not a clear-cut destination. It's something you'll probably have to work on for a very long time, if not the rest of your life, the rest of your career. But like any skill, you have to be mindful of it. You have to practice it. In order to change habits, you need feedback. So you need that feedback loop. And then you need to think about it. Reflection. How can I do better? What did I do well? How can I do it better? And of course, interacting with people, you're going to face all kinds of different situations. And through those different inserting and asserting yourself, you're going to continue to learn and grow. It's a gradual process. So I've talked about some of the tips. Let me talk about a few other let me put a finer point on some of these. One of the things you need to make sure you're always doing is being clear and specific. So a practice statement as you're in a situation, instead of saying, can you get this done soon? Be more specific. SMART goal, time bound. You should say, can you please complete this by 3 p.m. tomorrow? So you've gone from soon to 3 p.m. tomorrow. Be clear and specific. That's being assertive. Maintain eye contact. Yeah. Sometimes very difficult for introverts. But when you're in a conversation, be mindful and try to maintain pretty consistent but comfortable eye contact. This will demonstrate a higher level of confidence and sincerity. That's why you want to do it. Like I alluded to earlier, ask open-ended questions. I'm going to go through a list of some of the open-ended questions. And if you can't write these down, contact me I'll put a contact list on there, and I'll send you this whole list of open-ended questions that you've got a script, you've got a reference source you could be thinking about to draw upon. I'm happy to do that for you. And I'll provide you the same list I provided dozens and dozens of other folks just like yourself who want to work on their assertiveness, but are a little shy. So ask open-ended questions. So instead of asking a coworker, did you like my idea? Ask, what are your thoughts on the idea? What are your thoughts on the idea? Remember, being assertive takes time and practice. And when you get some victories, celebrate them, recognize them, and get individuals involved in this who can help you out and continue with your encouragement. So let me get down to it. Here, I'm going to read through. It'd be boring as hell for me to read through all the questions I have, but I'm going to give you some samples. And I've got dozens of examples. And I'll give you some samples of the examples of some open-ended questions you need to master in order to become more assertive in your interactions with your direct reports, clients, peers, your boss, meetings, etc. And your natural inclination, once again, is to seek clarity, gather information. That's what all this is about. It plays to your strength. So let's say you're in project management or some kind of work task. And a great open-ended question as you get reviews from somebody or get data delivered to you. Here's a couple open-ended questions as examples. And again, contact me. The contact page is on there. I'd be happy to send you this list. Can you explain the reasoning behind your decision? Or what metrics or data led you to this conclusion? Now, these are also really important because most of the population does not have the critical thinking skills that you do. They don't go through all these things internally. And as a leader, you need to develop others around you. One of the most important nuances of being successful in any job is having critical thinking skills. Open-ended questions help not only you become more assertive, but it helps those you're asking these questions of to think better. Not what to think, but how to think. You're an expert on how to think. They are not. Don't take them at face value. Draw it out of them. How do you envision this plan unfolding over the next quarter? They likely haven't thought about that. You have. They haven't. If you're looking for feedback and clarification, how can I improve this? Or what can you do to improve this? Or what's going to go wrong with this? What specific steps would you recommend? If it's a team dynamic or collaboration, not ask, do you guys like this approach? You ask, what do you think about this approach? How can we better integrate our processes for more efficiency? What aspects of this project do you believe require more immediate attention? Where should we start with this? Problem solving, decision making. Can you share your thoughts or give me the pros and cons on the options you just offered? Can you see this action impacting the larger goal? How is this action going to impact the larger goal? Conflict resolution, disagreements. Okay, I'm really good, but I need to understand your perspective. Can you elaborate on your viewpoint? Can we reconcile our differences an approach to achieve a common goal? What middle ground can we establish? This is your superpower weapon. Turn your natural avoidance of conflict into a strength. Utilizing open-ended questions align perfectly with your tendencies and preferences. You want data, you want information. That's natural for you. And you can even speak less, but discover more and still be assertive. It gives you structured listening. When you ask open-ended questions, it's very efficient because you don't waste any time going down rabbit holes. But you need to interject and ask numerous questions and even follow-up questions to make sure, first of all, you might form an opinion very quickly. You can be a little stubborn at times. And the more questions you ask may change your perspective of things, may change your mind. Not likely, but it may. And you're not just being stubborn. So your assertiveness comes through inquiry. This assertiveness through inquiry manifests only if the quality and precision of your open-ended questions work. Certainly trains your direct reports. It facilitates your team for deeper analysis. It minimizes potential for conflict or mistakes. And the more you practice this and insert this as in your daily habits, people are going to become more reliant on you and trusting of you because you're really helping them. You're helping them a ton with something they're not naturally gifted with, just like you are. That's the open-ended questions. That's the strength of all this. It's quality over quantity. Let's think about if you're doing a performance review. Yeah, because you love your detailed analysis, you love consistency, you need clear communication, but you also might avoid conflict and giving direct feedback. So instead of you giving them feedback, you turn this into open-ended questions. Let's talk about some of those. Let's say it's around performance metrics. Here's kind of open-ended question. Can you walk me through your process for achieving the targets you set out? Or how can you prioritize your task with this tight deadline? Because many people just strike out on the mission. They haven't stopped to figure out how to reorganize things. Help them with that. Very often during a performance review, there's some challenges that are identified or need to be identified. So what obstacles or challenges do you face this year and how do you navigate through them? What specific tools or resources do you feel you're lacking in that we need to provide for you? If you're working with somebody on their career development, maybe their future goals, where do you see yourself in the next year? And what skills or experiences would you like to gain? Or what professional development opportunities would you be interested in pursuing? Very often you want to understand their perspective during a performance review. So let's find out. How do you feel about the feedback and goals we've set? Or, in your opinion, what are your most significant accomplishments in this review period? See, that one's really good because you're not telling them what their accomplishments are. You're having them tell you. You're being assertive, but in your natural style. If you're delving into maybe projects or tasks as part of the review, can you provide insights into the strategies you employed for this specific project? What did you learn from this project? What are your takeaways? What would you do differently in the future? What mistakes happened and what did you learn from those? Which fosters continuous improvement. So I want to wrap this up. While introversion and being a high C, that poses some unique challenges if you want to become more assertive as a leader. But most importantly, I hope you take away today that it brings strength, like introspection, attention to detail, and drawing out, helping people with their critical thinking skills. Comes very naturally to you, but as I say to many people during a DISC debrief, the rest of the world just does not think like you. They're just never going to be like you. Embrace that. How can you influence that? And I've talked to you today about your superpower, your super strength, your tool for helping your team with that. Open-ended questions. You're going to leverage your strength and you're going to practice assertiveness with your strength using the tips and open-ended questions I share with you today. If you want more information, reach out to us at rdltraining.com. It's Romeo Delta Lima training.com. Check out our leadership development programs, our performance improvement programs. We'd love to have that opportunity with you. So thanks for listening. And if this podcast was helpful to you, please like and share it or subscribe to the channel, depending on what platform you're listening to this on. Please leave any comments. This helps us get shared more widely through the platforms, the different podcast platforms, algorithms. We'd sure appreciate that. So once again, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you all again next week.